A dog could smell fear. A handler had to decide whether the fear mattered. 90 minutes before kickoff, with the stadium above him shaking like a living thing, Rowan Pike watched Juno stop dead beside a vendor service door and refuse the noise of 90,000 people. The roar came through the concrete in waves. It ran under his boots, through the rubber matting, into the old aches in his knees. Fryer grease floated thick in the service hall. Spilled beer, sugar syrup, sweat, hot concrete, a normal stadium stink. A busy one. Juno should have sorted through it and kept moving. She did not. The German shepherd held low, ears half set, breath short through her nose. She glanced back at Rowan once, not asking a question, not answering one. Just checking the line between them. Rowan had seen dogs commit clean and seen them hesitate when the world got crowded. This was not clean. That made it more useful. He lifted 2 fingers from the lead and let the rest of his body go still. No radio call, no alarm, no sharp movement that might travel up the chain and turn a hidden problem into a public stampede. Above him, a chant broke apart, then came back harder. Below it, the door stayed silent. The assignment had been low profile and random by design, a service seam sweep. Under the public skin of the stadium, nothing dramatic, nothing worth a briefing room voice. He and Juno were supposed to drift between vendor corridors, staff cut-throughs, and freight-adjacent halls, looking forgettable while the match machinery roared overhead. Most bad things under a stadium did not start loud. They started with one flow of people missing from where it belonged. Rowan saw that before he saw the smear. 3 staff carts should have been moving through the hall beyond the vendor door. At this hour, with crowd swell building, and restart chatter already snapping across radios, the corridor should have carried bodies, wheels, complaints, heat. Instead, it held its breath. Fluorescent tubes hummed over white tile. Somewhere far off, a service latch banged once and echoed too long. Juno leaned toward the seam under the door. Her mouth opened, then closed. Rowan caught the blood metal thread after her, thin under the grease and sugar. Not enough for drama. Enough for work. He touched the push bar with his knuckles first, feeling vibration and temperature. No trick to it. Just habit. Just not trusting anything that wanted to be touched. Juno's shoulder pressed lightly against his leg, then eased off. She had the cue. She did not have the reason. Dogs did not smell intent. Men invented intent afterward and got killed by it often enough. Rowan opened the door only as wide as his body needed and let the stadium noise fold behind him. The service corridor on the other side ran straight for 20 yards before bending left around stacked soda crates and a dark patch of wall scuffed by carts. Rubber matting dulled his first step. The air changed. Less food, more cleaning solution, and under that, blood and stress. A small drop marked the floor near the baseboard. Another had been wiped badly, turned into a pink crescent, where someone had used the wrong cloth in a hurry. Rowan did not crouch over it. He did not need to worship a stain. He looked at the edges of the corridor, the empty cart bay, the staff door. With its handle not fully seated, movement told more truth than residue. Juno tracked 3 feet ahead and stopped before the bend. She looked back again, harder this time. Her tail was still light. Rowan lowered his center without thinking, breathed once through his mouth, and listened past the crowd. No cartwheels, no staff voices, no radio banter. A service layer without irritation was a bad sign. People complained when systems worked. Silence meant someone had removed the people. His radio clicked against his vest. A burst of weather talk came through, half a sentence about restart timing and crowd hold, then static. He turned the volume down with his thumb. The wrong call now would climb too fast. Stadiums did not panic one person at a time. This is crumbs. They panicked in sheets. The bend ahead gave him two choices. Left took him deeper into vendor storage and the blood trail. Right cut back toward a staff cross corridor that should have been active. Whoever had cleaned the floor had left both options open, which was generous in the way a trap was generous. Rowan looked at Juno. She wanted left. Her body said blood. Her hesitation said clutter. He did not give her a command. He stepped wide enough to see both lanes. A man in a stadium staff vest stood at the far end of the right corridor, half in shadow, half under the fluorescent wash. Badge at chest height, radio clipped high, hands empty and visible. On paper, he belonged there. He was also too still. Real staff moved even when they stopped. They shifted weight, checked time, hated someone on a radio. This man waited as if waiting had been assigned. His eyes went first to Juno, then to Rowan's lead hand, then to the space between the left turn and the right corridor. Not to Rowan's face, not to the blood. Rowan kept his breathing even. Above them, the stadium erupted for something harmless and huge. Down here, the man in the vest smiled with no warmth at all, and took one slow step sideways, giving Rowan the left route while blocking the right. Rowan did not take the offered route. That was the first rule of a generous corridor. He let his eyes stay on the staffer's hands and shifted his weight half a step toward the blood trail. Just enough to make the man believe the gift had worked. Juno's breathing changed. Low, tight, not a bark. The lead ran warm across Rowan's palm. The guard's badge swung once, plastic ticking against the zipper of his vest. And the movement came too late, like an actor remembering he needed props. Behind Rowan, the vendor door eased shut. With a soft hydraulic sigh, thinning the crowd roar to a pressure in the walls, the man raised one hand, palm out, the universal language of calm down. His other hand stayed close to his radio. Restricted, he said. His voice had the flat confidence of someone using a word he expected other people to obey. Rowan looked at the badge, not the face. The name was there, laminated and official enough for a tired usher. The clip was wrong. Too high. Too clean. The lanyard had no grease on it. "You're standing in a closed lane," Rowan said. The man's eyes moved again to the left turn. Not much. Enough. Juno pressed forward, shoulder hard under Rowan's knee, then stopped when he stopped. Good dog. Not magic, not certain, just pressure in the right place. The man touched his radio. Rowan moved before the thumb found the button. He covered the distance without rushing, because rushing made noise, and noise traveled. The staffer tried to pivot around him, fast now, all the borrowed laziness gone. He was stronger than the vest promised. His shoulder drove under Rowan's chest and almost turned them both into the open lane, where one shout would have carried to the vendor door. Rowan swallowed the bad angle, caught fabric and bone instead of chasing a clean grip, and let concrete take the argument. The badge slapped sideways. A radio hissed and spat half a syllable. Juno came in on the flank and held space, teeth showing only enough to make the man choose stillness over pride. He chose badly once, bucking off the wall. Rowan put him down against the rubber mat with short, ugly pressure that stole breath from both of them. The corridor answered with one hard scuff. Above them, the stadium swallowed it. The man was trained enough not to waste panic. That told Rowan more than the uniform did. Real stadium staff cursed when they fell. This one tried to turn his face from the floor and find the corridor bend. Rowan kept him pinned only as long as it took to strip the radio away. And see the second badge tucked under the vest. Broadcast support. Temporary access. Too convenient? The card sat inside a clear sleeve, with a blue stripe and a printed arrow pointing toward a service spur. That should have mattered if the story wanted to be simple. Rowan hated simple when it arrived early. Behind the bend, something rolled once and stopped. A chair wheel, maybe. Maybe a cart. The fake guard heard it too, and went still beneath Rowan's knee. Rowan checked the man's sleeves, pockets, belt, and found no phone, no map, no obvious prize. Oh, that was another answer. The man had been sent to delay, not carry truth. His earpiece crackled. A voice came through, small and rough, cut by concrete and bad signal. Window belongs to the buyer. Then static. The staffer's jaw tightened. Rowan looked toward the blood turn. Empty now. Whatever had moved through there had used the contact for cover. He had won the body in front of him and lost the movement behind it. That was not an accident. Juno backed 2 steps, nose high, pulling threads out of ruined air. Blood. Cleaning solution? Sweat from the man on the floor. Old fryer smoke leaking under the door. Too many layers, and the trail already thinning. Rowan took the broadcast card between 2 fingers and turned it once. It wanted him to chase cameras, cables, a visible stage, the obvious fear of a global feed, going black. It wanted him upstairs in his head, away from the service lanes under his boots. He heard his own breathing slow down, forced and careful. The wrong win had burned clean, useful minutes. A lesser problem would have made more noise. This one had taken the shape of his restraint and used it as cover. His ribs held the first bruise of that lesson. The radio on his vest clicked again with restart chatter, weather hold, crowd flow, words chopped into pieces by concrete. Somewhere above, people were singing because they still believed the dangerous part of a stadium was the game. Rowan zip-tied the man's hands with the minimum movement and left him breathing. No speech. No questions. Questions made men feel central. This man had been a gate, not the room. Rowan needed the person who knew the stadium as movement, not signage. He thumbed his radio to a private operations channel and kept his eyes on the corridor bend. "Get me Lena Ortiz," he said. "Now." Lena Ortiz came in moving. Rowan heard her before he saw her, not by voice but by the way the service layer adjusted around her. A cart braked. 2 runners flattened themselves against a wall. Someone started to complain and stopped halfway through the first word. She appeared at the bend in a black operations jacket, docene, hair pulled back hard, tablet tucked. Under one arm like something she might use only if the building forced her to. Her eyes went to the bound man, then the broadcast card in Rowan's hand. Then Juno's nose working the air above the floor. "How much time did he cost you?" she asked. Not who was he. Not what happened. Good. Rowan held up the card. Enough? The stadium rolled overhead, a huge living pressure trapped in concrete. Radios popped in clipped fragments about weather hold, restart window, crowd swell on the east concourse. Lena listened to 3 of them at once and started walking. Rowan fell in beside her, Juno between his knee and the wall, still pulling scent out of air that had been stepped on too many times. Lena did not stop to brief him. She cut through a vendor junction, palmed one staff cart aside by its steel handle, and snapped 2 words at a young runner carrying camera cable. He changed lanes without asking why. That was the first useful thing Rowan learned about her. The second was that she watched people, not screens. And her tablet woke once under her thumb, threw blue light across her face, and closed again before it could become the room. And broadcast is loud, she said. That card wants you loud. Ahead, 3 broadcast cases sat stacked near a service spur, all black plastic. And silver latches, the kind of thing an amateur would call important because it looked expensive. Juno nosed toward them, sneezed once, and angled away. Not a rejection. Not proof. Just the dog refusing to make Rowan's thinking easy. He was placed to delay me, Rowan said. And aim you, Lena said. She took a left before the marked broadcast spur and stepped into a narrower lane where the air changed again. Less fryer grease. More hot concrete, rubber dust, and the faint clean bite of medical alcohol. Staff flow thickened ahead, then pinched. The pinch told the story better than Lena's words could have. 2 medical carts waited nose to tail beside a wall scarred by freight bumpers. Food service tried to cross through them. A broadcast runner tried to slip behind both and got cursed back by a woman pushing linen bags. Somewhere deeper, a freight lift hummed against its guide rails, low and heavy, felt more through the floor than heard. Lena pointed with 2 fingers without slowing. Loading dock feeds that lift bank. Medical overflow crosses here when the bowl backs up. Broadcast support cuts through the same spine when cables and cameras need field-side access. Past that, you're near the referee-player tunnel threshold. She let the words land in pieces because the moving bodies made them plain. That whole line is East Freight. Rowan looked past the carts toward a gray service door with chipped paint around the handle. Nothing dramatic. No red light. No big sign. A useful line hidden inside boring architecture. The best kind to steal. Nobody opens East Freight during crowd swell, Lena said. Not unless they want carts, med teams, broadcast crew, and field-side staff fighting for the same throat. Rowan watched a medical cart roll 6 inches, stop, and lock the whole junction for 3 seconds. 3 seconds down here could become 30 upstairs. Then that's what they're trying to make us do, he said. Lena's jaw tightened, but she did not argue. That was the third useful thing. She believed movement when it turned ugly. Score. Juno drifted toward the medical carts and checked back, uncertain, her breath faster now. Blood trace, cleaning chemical, frightened people, old food, too much human weather. Rowan shortened the lead and let her work without letting her choose for him. The broadcast card felt thin and stupid in his pocket, too clean a clue for a dirty corridor. A radio burst snapped out of Lena's shoulder mic. East Medical Overflow requesting temp crossload. Liaison missing from the blue corridor. Repeat, liaison missing. Lena stopped so abruptly Rowan nearly brushed her shoulder. Across the junction, a pair of men in temporary medical vests pushed a covered equipment chair through a side door. That should have fed storage, not patient movement. One wheel dragged, not broken. Weighted wrong. A cart runner tried to squeeze past them, and the chair shoved him hard against a wall without losing speed. Under the crowd's muffled surge, Rowan heard a breath from beneath the cover. Human. Hurt. Close. Juno strained toward it, then hesitated as the men turned the chair toward the route-adjacent hall. Lena's voice dropped flat. That is not a medical path. Rowan kept his eyes on the chair and felt the trap take on a body. The covered chair crossed the junction before Rowan could close the distance. The 2 men pushing it had the rhythm of staff who knew where eyes went during a rush. Badges forward, shoulders busy, faces bored. Wrong again, but better wrong. The front man barked, "Medical transfer," at a food service kid and kept moving. The kid jumped back. Lena said, no transfer was cleared through that door, but she said it low, for Rowan, not the hallway. Juno drove to the end of the lead. Her whole body angled toward the chair, paws slipping once on the rubber mat. The cover shifted near the bottom. Just enough for Rowan to see one bare heel streaked with blood and arena dust. Then a hand appeared under the fabric, pale fingers hooked around a torn lanyard. Not a prop. Not dead weight. Alive! The woman under the cover took one broken breath as the chair bumped over a seam in the floor. And Juno answered with a hard, silent pull that ran straight through Rowan's arm. The chair smelled of gauze, cleaning alcohol, and fear sweated through fabric. None of it told him intent. All of it demanded movement, and that was how good traps learned to sound like mercy. The route split 10 yards ahead. Left followed the chair toward a narrower medical-adjacent hall where sound dropped off hard. Right cut toward the service throat Lena had named, the one that fed East Freight. Without looking important enough to fear. 2 more staff vests waited near the right side bend, not blocking it, which was worse. They stood loose and ready, giving Rowan exactly what his old work hated. A living person moving away and a route opening beside her. One of them shifted his jacket just enough to show hard metal at his wrist, then let the fabric fall. The message was small and professional. Move wrong and the hallway would pay. Rowan's fingers tapped twice against his thigh before he stopped them. The old rule had never sounded dramatic in his head. Protect the route, not the VIP. It was not a slogan. It was math, with blood in it. One person could pull you off the line. A line could lose a crowd. Above them the stadium shook again, a rolling cheer changing shape as if thousands of bodies had shifted at once. Lena heard the same pressure in the building. If they get us chasing her, East stays soft, she said. Rowan did not answer. Juno wanted the woman. Rowan wanted the woman men. Want was not the same as work. The chair slowed at the mouth of the left hall. Not enough to help. Enough to show him they knew he was watching. The rear man lifted the edge of the cover with one hand, casual as a nurse checking a blanket. And Rowan saw her face for half a second. Mid-30s maybe, dark hair stuck to sweat at her temple, cheek bruised, eyes open. And too focused for a sedated patient. A referee liaison badge was twisted against her collar. Elise Varden, P. Rowan knew the name from the event sheet, one of the people. Who made field-side movement look boring until it failed. Her eyes found the corridor, then him, not pleading, not cleanly. Measuring. Her hand moved under the cover and pulled the lanyard tight across the wheel, a small resistance. That made the chair jerk and cost the men a step. The rear man could have killed her in that pause. A twist of cloth, a hard shove, anything quiet. He did not. He showed her instead. That was the message. The front man shifted his shoulder toward the left hall, inviting pursuit. At the same time, one of the vests near the right bend looked at Rowan's lead hand. Then, at Lena, then away. Observing, feeding the shape of the next move to whoever owned it. Rowan cut right too. Juno hit the end of the lead and nearly took his shoulder with her. He checked her with his body, not a command, and felt the cost of it in the dog's frustrated, shaking breath. The chair vanished, left with Elise still breathing under the cover. Lena moved with Rowan without wasting a question, snapping at 2 startled staffers to clear the service throat and keep carts from drifting into the bend. The men on the right gave ground too neatly. They had expected the choice. That did not make it wrong. It made it dangerous. As Rowan reached the bend, Elise's voice scraped out from the left hall, thin and broken under the freight hum. East, medical, a hard sound cut her off, maybe a hand over her mouth, maybe pain. Then she forced one more piece through it. Not medical. The words were not an answer. They were a torn corner of a map, useful if you did not mistake it for the whole thing. Rowan kept moving right, protecting the route because the route could become a weapon. Behind him, the distance to Elise opened. Ahead, the corridor had already been left clean for him. Too clean. The correct choice had been waiting. The corridor ahead looked wrong, because it looked kind. No carts. No loose cable. No sweating runners swearing into a radio cate. No medical overflow spilling into the lane where it should have spilled. A fresh mop line ran along the rubber mat, bright under fluorescent hum. Cleaning chemicals sat sharp over syrup, grease, and blood. Rowan felt the judgment form fast and hated how neatly it fit the rule he had just chosen. He shortened Juno's lead and moved anyway, because stopping at every shaped absence could become its own trap. Lena stayed off his right shoulder, close enough to read the lane, far enough not to crowd Juno. This corridor should be ugly right now, she said. Rowan watched the blank side doors, the closed storage panels, the pale reflection on the floor. It is, he said. That's the problem. Above them, the crowd hit a low rolling chant that made the concrete breathe underfoot. Somewhere behind them, Elise was being carried deeper. Somewhere ahead, a freight door gave a soft metal tick, the kind of small sound a busy corridor should have. Buried? His read was professional and incomplete, which made it useful to the men waiting for him. The clean lane was too obvious to be the real hit. So the pressure had to be at the far bend, near the route throat. He gave the first storage door only a glance, and took the center left, keeping Lena out of the open line and Juno between his leg and the wall. Juno's nose worked hard, then broke rhythm. Her head lifted, then dropped. What? Too many scents had been stacked on purpose, or by luck. Blood trace smeared thin, cleaning solution, panic sweat from the men. Who had moved Elise? Old fried food, medical alcohol bleeding from the nearby overflow zone, the massive animal heat of first ray. The crowd above. Juno gave a tight sound and shook once without shaking anything off. Rowan felt the lead go uncertain in his hand. That should have slowed him more. It did not slow him enough. The first storage door whispered after he had already passed it. A second later, a hard crack punched through the corridor and vanished under the crowd roar. Concrete dust jumped from the wall near Lena's shoulder. No one shouted. That discipline was worse. The door opened into his blind quarter, not wide, just enough for a shoulder and two fast bodies. The first man came low out of the side space and drove into Rowan's ribs, where the earlier bruise was still fresh. Pain folded him half an inch. The second went for Lena, catching her jacket and using the impact to drag her toward the clean bend. That was the proof. They had not simply guessed his lane, they had shaped who he would protect first. Rowan gave ground, because concrete did not. He shoved the first man across Juno's line without feeding him to the dog. Juno surged, overloaded by sound and scent, then checked against the lead, so hard the clip snapped against Rowan's knuckles. Lena hit a cart rack, stayed upright, and drove one boot into the rubber mat before the second man could turn her U-heft. The man's hand tightened in her jacket. Rowan hit the arm offline with his forearm and shoulder, not clean, just enough. A metal frame sparked as something struck it behind him. Juno flinched and lunged toward the spark, then toward the blood, then toward Lena's breath. Too many answers. Ashore. Rowan's grip burned. He took another hit high, tasted blood where his teeth clipped the inside of his cheek, and put the first man into the wall hard enough to fold his breath. The second let go of Lena the instant the angle failed, already spending the next second. When it was over, both attackers were moving away, not down. One vanished through the side space. The other limped into the far bend and slapped a doorframe as he passed a signal or a count. Rowan started after him and stopped because Lena and Juno were both exposed and the lane behind him had changed again. A service cart now blocked half the way back. The clean corridor had become a clock. Juno pulled once, then failed to hold a line. Her breath came fast. Her ears flicked toward the medical overflow, then the storage door, then the bend ahead. she whined, low and angry, drowning in bad information. Rowan looked at the mopped floor, the dust mark near Lena's shoulder, the open side space, the route left available. The attackers who had chosen pressure over victory. A pattern had lifted out of the noise, enough to damage trust without proving itself. They were not hiding from him. They were arranging what he would notice. Lena touched her shoulder where the rack had caught her. Her sleeve was torn. They knew which wrong answer you'd hate least, she said. Rowan wiped blood from his lip. The radio cracked with restart traffic and medical overflow requests piling over each other. Juno's nose snapped toward the louder human fear beyond the bend. Rowan felt the seconds burn. The stadium was spending them for someone else. The human fear beyond the bend came in layers, and Juno wanted all of them. Rowan felt it through the lead before the medical overflow opened in front of them. The hard angle of her shoulders, the broken rhythm of her breath, the way she kept trying to choose a smartcase path and losing it. The lane widened into a service pocket, packed with too many bodies, doing too many almost correct things. Medical carts stood crooked against the wall. A runner held a box of gauze against his chest, like he had forgotten where to put it. Two concessions. Workers argued in whispers over a spilled cooler, while the crowd chant above warped through the concrete into something thick and animal concrete. Cleaning alcohol cut through panic sweat. Old blood hid under both fluff. Juno's nose snapped left, toward a cluster of staff gathered around a man sitting on the floor, head between his will. Knees, vest soaked dark under one arm. He was shaking so hard the badge on his chest trembled. Juno drove toward him. Rowan nearly went with her. That was the honest part, the ugly part. Trust had weight. He had built years around feeling a dog commit, and letting that commitment move him faster than doubt. Juno pulled again, stronger, claws ticking on the rubber mat. The shaking man looked up, eyes huge, breathing through his teeth. A woman beside him smelled of antiseptic and fear. Another staffer kept saying, he just fell, too softly for anyone who believed it. Rowan saw all of it in a blink, and still felt his body start to follow Juno's line. The false route offered itself as cleanly as the last one had. Fear cluster, medical odor, injury scent, and a living problem that demanded attention. At the far side of the service pocket, a cart with a covered crate rolled out of sight, while two staffers froze in its wake. Rowan caught only the wheel wobble and the bright flash of an orange sleeve before bodies swallowed it. Lena caught his sleeve with 2 fingers, not enough to stop him. Just enough to make the delay belong to him. Is she wrong? She said. Or are you scared of ignoring her? The words landed harder than the grab. Juno strained, confused by the fact that Rowan had not released her into certainty. She smells fear, Rowan said. His voice came out low and rough from the hit to his ribs. That doesn't make it the right fear. Saying it cost more than he liked. The dog was not wrong, in the simple way people wanted dogs to be wrong. The man on the floor was terrified. He smelled of pain and hot skin and gauze powder. He might even have blood on him. None of that made him the movement Elise had left behind. Rowan crouched just enough to see shoes, cartwheels, floor marks. No drag pattern from the covered chair. No weighted wheel cut. No clean handoff lane. Just crowd spill, panic, and a terrified man caught in the exhaust of someone else's plan. A lift bell sounded somewhere beyond the wall, one flat note that made Lena turn her head. Juno gave a short, frustrated whine and shook again. Rowan held the lead steady, until her breathing dropped half a notch. They had lost maybe 30 seconds. Maybe more. In this place, 30 seconds was a door closing somewhere else. The man with the soaked vest reached for Rowan and missed, still lost inside his own terror. And Lena released Rowan's sleeve and looked past the cluster toward the root throat. "They poisoned the field," she said. "No," Rowan said, standing. "They let the field poison itself." They moved again, worse for the pause. Juno worked lower now, then higher, then stopped trying to make one clean story out of too many smells. Rowan did not punish the hesitation. He used it. Lena pushed through the service pocket with clipped orders that moved people without explaining danger. A cart shifted. A medic swore. The crowd above surged and the floor answered, a low tremor running toward the freight side of the building. Ahead, the corridor cleared in a way Rowan no longer trusted. It held just enough staff to feel natural, just enough noise to feel lived in, and a straight line of space leading toward a pale service door with fresh scuffs along the bottom. Juno reached the mouth of it and stopped. No hard alert. No heroic certainty. She simply refused to take the clean path, body angled away, ears flicking between the door and the medical overflow behind them. Lena looked at the door, then at Rowan. Elise's broken phrase sat between them with the weight of bad metal. East, medical, not medical. The covered crate was gone now. The lift bell did not repeat. The clean corridor could be bait.
Juno's refusal could be overload. The pattern could be real. Not proof, Rowan said. Lena nodded once. Pressure point. The radio broke with another burst of restart timing, sharper now. Rowan tightened his grip on the lead and chose movement, not certainty. Rowan did not take the pale service door. Juno's refusal held at the edge of it, not strong enough to be a warning, too physical to ignore. Her paws stayed planted. Her head turned once toward the medical overflow behind them, then toward the freight hum ahead. As if the air had split into bad choices. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. Lena stood close enough for Rowan to feel her impatience without hearing it. The corridor looked ordinary, now that he wanted it to look guilty. 2 staffers pushed a linen cart past the mouth of the lane. A broadcast runner jogged by with cable over one shoulder. A medic cursed at a wheel that would not clear a scuffed threshold. The building kept moving, and that was the problem. North Gate had not stopped the stadium. They had been steering the parts that mattered. Elise's broken words sat under the crowd roar. East, medical, not medical, is less than #0. 3# is greater than. Juno's hesitation, the false alert, the clean corridor, the dragged chair, the broadcast card that wanted to be found. None of it solved anything alone. Together, it started to lean one way. A second lift bell sounded under the crowd, low and impatient. Lena heard it too. Her hand closed on the steel edge of a linen cart. Broadcast was never the room, Rowan said. Lena's eyes went to the service door, then past it, measuring distance in bodies instead of feet. It was the noise, she said. The pretty target is less than #0. 3# is greater than. The freight lift shuddered somewhere beyond the wall, a deep metal cough that climbed through the soles of Rowan's boots. Lena moved again, faster now, cutting left across a narrow staff lane. Rowan followed, keeping Juno tight and letting the dog work the edge of the flow without making her the judge. East Freight, Lena said, not as a lecture, more like a diagnosis made while the patient was still bleeding. Loading dock feeds the lift. Medical overflow crosses it when crowd swell backs up. Broadcast support uses the same spine when they need field side access. Past that is the tunnel threshold, is less than #0. 5. Hash is greater than. She pointed with her chin toward the gray service run ahead. They don't need the cameras. They need us to make that route legitimate. Rowan saw it then, not as a map, but as pressure. The one service throat nobody opened unless every smaller throat was already choking. Elise gives them the reason, he said. And I give them the choice. A hard crack rolled somewhere ahead, folded at once into the stadium noise. A runner ducked without knowing why. Lena did not answer. She grabbed the nearest linen cart and shoved it sideways into a moving lane. Not blocking it, just making it ugly, is less than #0. 3# is greater than, then make them choose wrong, she said. Rowan took the idea before it finished forming. He turned to a pair of confused staffers and gave them the calm voice people obeyed when they did not have time to decide if they should. Hold that cart, keep it angled. Don't let medical cross behind you. Lena snapped into her radio, clipped, and hard, redirecting 2 freight runners toward the south side, delaying 1 lift request, opening a narrow window. That looked accidental from 10 yards away and deliberate from 1. Bodies moved. That was the whole point. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. A food service cart rolled 6 feet and stopped at the wrong angle. A broadcast case shifted away from the obvious spur. A medical cart backed up, then clipped the corner of a steel rack and spilled folded blankets across the floor. For 3 seconds, the whole flow threatened to collapse in the wrong direction. Lena drove her shoulder into the cart and pointed the 2 closest staffers into the gap. Move it or wear it, she said. They moved. Juno tracked the changing air with her nose high, uncertain but engaged, one shoulder brushing Rowan's leg every few steps. The counter route did not look like a plan. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. It looked like a stadium having a bad minute. That made it useful. Rowan watched the flow tighten and waited for the enemy to hate it. The answer came too fast. A man in an orange temporary vest at the far side of the freight approach stopped pretending to check labels and looked straight through the moving bodies, not at them. Another, pushing what should have been an equipment cart, changed pace when the linen cart narrowed the lane. Too smooth. Too early. Rowan felt the shift before he named it. Somewhere inside the bad minute, someone had read the hand moving the pieces is less than #0. 4# is greater than, he knows, Lena said. Her voice was flat now. No surprise left in it. Good, Rowan said, though there was nothing good about the speed of it. The freight indicator blinked above the dock lane. A low bell sounded once behind a wall. The orange-vested man touched his collar and walked faster. The equipment cart picked up speed toward the lift bank, its front wheel wobbling. Underweight, it should not have carried. A second body broke from medical overflow and joined him, moving with the hard purpose fake staff never quite hid. Is less than #0. 5# is greater than. A metal cart frame, sparked near the dock mouth, as something struck it and kept moving. Staff scattered, not screaming, just human and late. Cell B, Rowan thought, though no one had given them that name out loud. They were not waiting for the window anymore. They were taking it before Lena could finish shaping it. Juno lunged 1 step and checked back, breath hot and rough. Rowan tightened the lead and moved toward the loading dock. With the counterplan still half built behind him and the enemy already inside it. The loading dock opened wide and ugly, all yellow lines, concrete scars, is less than #0. 5# is greater than, and metal doors shaking under the noise of the match above. The equipment cart hit the dock lane ahead of Rowan with too much speed for a normal delivery, and too much discipline for panic. Its front wheel bit at the paint, corrected, and aimed for the lift bank. Lena's voice cracked over her radio. Behind him, forcing 1 freight runner to hold, another to reverse, keeping the movement window ugly but alive. Juno pulled toward the cart, then hesitated as the air hit her. Diesel ghost from the dock, old blood, rubber, hot metal, fear layered over fear. Rowan saw the orange vest vanish behind the cart. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. A hard report snapped near the dock wall and turned into crowd roar before it could become a clear sound. Concrete dust jumped off a painted column. Staff bodies folded away from it, too late and too slow. Then another man stepped out from the shadow beside the freight lift, and the space changed. He was not dressed like a mastermind. No theater. Dark jacket under a staff vest, gray at the temples, hands empty, body quiet in the way trained men went. Quiet before violence. Rowan knew him without needing the name confirmed. Marek Lenz looked first at Rowan's root line, then at Juno, is less than #0. 5# is greater than then at Lena, exposed in the moving throat behind them. You still protect the path, Marek said. He moved on the last word. Rowan had expected speed. He had not expected the angle. Marek did not charge him. He cut toward the lift controls and forced Rowan to choose between the route and the man. The same choice again, cleaner this time, sharpened for him. Rowan stepped to block, and Marek met him at the edge of the freight lift. As the doors began to separate with a slow metal groan, tight walls waited inside. Bad place for a dog, worse place for a mistake, is less than #0. 4# is greater than Marek used the cart and the half-open door to hide his shoulders, turning Rowan into the lift frame. Before Rowan could settle his feet, pain opened along Rowan's ribs where the earlier hits had already written their notes. He kept standing because the alternative was giving the dock to the cart. Barely. A second impact rang off the cart rail behind him. The metal sang, sharp and close. Juno surged at the edge of the lead, then checked herself, overwhelmed by sound and hot metal and fear. Marek had read that too. His shoulders shifted, closing the dog's lane without offering himself to her, is less than #0. 5# is greater than he expected. Rowan to hold Juno back after the false alert, expected discipline to become distance. Rowan felt the shape of that expectation like a hand around his throat. Behind him, Lena shouted for a cart to hold position, her body in the lane now, one palm on steel. No cover worth naming. Marek hit the injured side first because professionals did not waste mercy on symmetry. Rowan's breath went thin. The lift door shuddered against his shoulder. He saw the corridor threshold over Marek's back, saw the orange vest force the equipment cart another foot forward, saw, is less than #0. 5# is greater than Lena step into the gap because nobody else understood what that foot meant. The warning came late. Juno did not bark. She shoved hard across Rowan's leg, a brutal check from the side. Just as the orange-vested man reappeared behind the cart with his weight low, and his shoulder driving toward Lena's exposed window. Rowan turned because the dog had moved him, not because he understood fast enough. That saved half a second and cost him the rest. Marek caught the turn and drove him into the freight wall. Metal rang through Rowan's spine. Something hot tore along his left side, is less than #0. 4# is greater than breath, left him in one ugly piece. Blood filled his mouth, copper and dust. Juno slipped on the dock paint, recovered, and planted between Rowan and the second line of movement, breathing hard, eyes bright and overloaded. Not a miracle. A living body in a narrow place. Marek had undercounted that. Rowan could have sealed the lift throat then, could have locked himself to the abstract route, and forced everyone else to catch up around him. The old rule rose clean and useless. I protect the route, not the VIP. Lena was in the window. Juno was exposed. Cell B was moving. Is less than #0. 3# is greater than. The route was no longer a line. It was people inside timing. Rowan broke right instead of closing the lift. Marek had already shifted to meet the old choice, and that half-beat of wrong prediction was the crack. Rowan used his injured side badly and paid for it, but badly was enough. He drove into Marek's space, not to win clean, just to move him off Lena's lane. Marek recovered fast and nearly made. That cost permanent, one hand finding Rowan's torn side, the other forcing Rowan toward the open lift wall. Rowan let the pain bend him, then kept the bend moving. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than Juno came forward with him, not released into certainty, held inside the same risk as everyone else. Marek's face changed for the first time. Not fear, Calculation, losing a number. Lena saw the opening and shoved the stalled cart hard enough to turn its wheels across the dock lane, narrowing the path the equipment cart needed. The orange vest swore and fought the weight. The freight lift shuddered with its doors half open, cable hum rising in the metal walls. Rowan and Marek hit the corridor threshold together. Shoulder and breath and pain, no room for anything elegant, is less than #0. 5# is greater than Marek, almost took him down there. But Rowan stayed attached to the living timing, not the root in his head. He heard Lena yell that the second group was still moving. He saw Juno stagger, reset, and face the threshold. Marek's model had broken. The root had not. Cell B was still coming. Cell B came through the threshold in a rush of cartwheels and bad timing. Rowan saw the orange vest first. Then, the second body behind him, both using the equipment cart as cover and weight. The cart's front wheel snapped against the turned freight dolly Lena had shoved across the lane, bounced, and kept coming. The corridor narrowed into noise. Lift, cable hum, metal doors trembling, crowd eruption overhead, Juno's ragged breath at Rowan's knee. Marek was still on him, still trying to turn pain into a handle. Rowan's left side had gone hot and wet under his shirt. Every breath felt borrowed. A sharp impact clanged against the dock rail and shook dust from the wall. Nobody needed to name what had made it. The message was enough. Move or be moved. Rowan did not try to own the whole route anymore. The route was too big for one man and too easy to worship. Lena was exposed in the lane. He is less than #0. 4# is greater than Juno was slipping on dock paint. Elise was somewhere behind the medical bend, breathing, because the people moving her had needed her breathing. Rowan got one foot under him and drove Marek backward just enough to break the line between the cart and Lena. "Hold it!" Lena snapped, not to him, to anyone with hands near steel. The first cart hit the dolly at an angle and lost speed but not intent. The orange vest abandoned the handle and tried to slip through the gap his own weight had made. Juno moved before Rowan could ask anything of her. Not fast like before. Not clean. Is less than #0. 3# is greater than. She staggered half a step, shoulder low, and put herself across the man's path with a hard, exhausted block that made him check his stride. The man clipped her with his thigh and almost knocked her sideways. She stayed up on 3 good legs and 1 bad angle, breath tearing out of her. That was all. A fraction. Rowan took it. He left Marek's pressure instead of sealing the lift, took 2 limping steps into the living mess, and caught the equipment cart by its side rail before it could swing open the throat. Pain flashed white along his ribs. The cart shoved him backward. Is less than #0. 3# is greater than. Lena hit it from the other side with her shoulder and forearm, not stopping it, changing it. Its wheels dragged across the yellow line, screaming against concrete. The second body behind it collided with the shifted weight and went down hard enough to lose the clean rhythm. Marek reached for Rowan again, but Juno turned her head and showed him teeth through foam and breath. Not victory. Just another half-second stolen by a dog almost out of gas. Rowan's hand slipped on the cart rail. Blood, sweat, dust. He reset with his forearm and felt something in his side pull wrong. Half-seconds became enough. Rowan pinned the cart against the dock rail with his injured side and felt his body argue in a language older than thought. Lena used the jam to wave 2 terrified staffers back, then forward. Then back again, shaping their panic into weight where she needed it. A medical cart locked crosswise behind them. A linen cart scraped into the open gap. The route did not close like a gate. It failed like a bad machine, piece by piece, each moving part made useless by another. The orange vest tried to crawl under the rail. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. Rowan stepped on the fabric of the man's vest and held him there without looking noble about it. Marek moved once more at the edge of Rowan's vision. The old Marek would have found the old choice and cut around it. This time he found a man protecting a dog's body, a woman's exposed lane, and the tiny window that kept a cart from becoming a weapon. His timing was gone. He had been reading a rule. Rowan had stopped giving him one. A final hard shove came from the second man, enough to move the linen cart 6 inches and crack Lena's hip into the steel handle. She did not let go. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than back, she barked. And this time the staff moved as one dumb, frightened weight. Sirens and heavier boots arrived from the far dock only after the last gap was already dead. Security voices shouted too loudly, late enough to be background. From the medical hall, Elise Varden was brought into view on the same chair, cover gone, face gray and alive. She looked toward Rowan, or maybe toward the blocked route. Her mouth moved once. No explanation came, and he was grateful for that. Above them, the stadium cheered again. Huge and innocent is less than #0. 4# is greater than. The sound rolled down through concrete as if nothing had happened under it. As if the building had not nearly opened its own throat. Security took Marek breathing and silent. The orange vest stared at the floor. Lena stood with one hand on the cart, chest rising hard, already forcing the staff flow back into something that would not crush itself. Rowan found the broadcast card still bent in his pocket. Its blue stripe had split across the laminate. On the back, where sweat had loosened the adhesive, a small sponsor seal peeled from the plastic. A silver mark with no stadium office code, no useful name, no clean path to a person who would stand under lights and explain the buyer. Just a handprint from outside the frame. Rowan folded it once and let it stay unread. That was for later people, if later people were honest. For now, the live plan was dead, Elise was breathing, and the crowd still had its game. Juno sank onto her haunches beside his boot, tongue out, sides pumping. Her shoulder trembled where the man had clipped her. A young volunteer in a yellow bib stepped from behind a stack of empty crates, holding a paper cup in both hands. He looked at Rowan, then at the dog. He is less than #0. 4# is greater than. She needs water, he said. Rowan crouched badly, one hand against his ribs, and steadied the cup while Juno drank.